The husband is kissing his cousin. The lady of the house comes searching and reaches the yard. The servant comes and blocks her path, saying, "Boss, what are you doing here?" The lady of the house says, "If you find my husband, inform me immediately." The lady leaves. The servant goes and says, "Your wife is looking for you." The husband runs away. The cousin slaps the servant and says, "Why do you spoil our moments?" The servant says, "I even tried to mislead the lady of the house." The cousin leaves. A few minutes later, the husband comes home. The lady of the house asks, "How do I look?" The husband says, "You look ridiculous. Hurry up and change your clothes." The lady of the house goes inside. The next day, the cousin comes groaning and says, "My stomach hurts." The lady of the house says, "Calm down, I'll make you tea." The cousin says, "Bring me medicine from the city." The lady of the house leaves. The cousin says, "I will keep deceiving her like this." The servant comes and says, "Don't come between a husband and wife. That man is not worthy of you. Look at me." The cousin says, "Forget you. You are a poor farmer." The cousin goes and starts kissing the husband. A few minutes later, the servant is crying. The lady of the house asks, "What happened? You can tell me as a friend." The servant says, "I love your cousin, but she is deceiving you together with your husband." A few hours later, everyone is at the dining table. The cousin says, "You look very happy today." The lady of the house says, "Absolutely, because we are going to be parents." The husband says, "This is the best news. Finally, my heirs will be born." The cousin says, "Congratulations, but I have some things to take care of right now." And the cousin leaves. The husband says, "Darling, I will take full care of you." And the husband leaves. The next moment, the cousin slaps the husband and says, "You are going to divorce your wife. What happened now?" The husband says, "My child is dear to me. Everything between us is over now." And the husband leaves. The cousin says, "Now you will pay the consequences." A few days later, the husband says, "I told you before to stay away from my family." The cousin says, "I am also pregnant. If you don't give me money and a place to live, I will tell the lady of the house the whole truth." A few months later, the lady of the house says, "I am so happy because today we are doing the baby's gender reveal. Come, let me take a picture of you both." The husband and the cousin stand together. The servant secretly bursts the balloon over them. The cousin says, "What nonsense is this?" The lady of the house says, "The servant has told me everything about you two." A few days earlier, the servant had said, "Boss, your cousin spends a lot of time with your husband. That's why she faked illness today." The lady of the house says, "I have been wronged." The servant says, "Don't worry, I will help you in every possible way." The lady of the house says, "This was all a plan." The lady pierces the belly balloon with a needle and pops it. The husband says, "You lied." The lady of the house says, "You even made my cousin pregnant." The cousin says, "Don't worry, dear, I will give you an heir." The servant says, "This is my child and I will claim it legally." The husband says, "Forgive me." The lady of the house says, "You both are not worthy of forgiveness. Get out of here." The husband and the cousin leave. A while later, the cousin says, "Dear, we can start a new life with this child." The husband says, "Go away. Because of you, I have been ruined." The husband leaves. A few days later, the lady of the house says, "Thank you for helping me against these deceivers." The servant says, "From now on, my love will be limited to my daughter. I only have to earn for her." The lady of the house says, "You will be promoted today and given a good position and a good salary." The servant thanks her and hugs the lady of the house.